Everyone, and welcome to our live match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. That match ended up being a bit chaotic than expected, but Liverpool managed to get all 3 points as they beat Tottenham 2-1 at the Tottenham Stadium. So during the show, we will review the match, we'll do the player ratings, and if you guys would like to call in, a link has been pinned in the chat, so feel free to hit that link. And yes, we will allow you to have the platform to have your say. So let's talk about the game. There's a lot of talking points today. So we'll try and go in detail and have a discussion about these moments. So let's talk about the game in general in terms of the gameplay. Tottenham were probably the first ones to have any sort of shot towards goal, and it came from Colomwani, who played up top this time. Normally he plays on the left hand side, but in this game he had a moment where he controlled the ball inside the box, had a shot, just goes wide. So Bosley had a free kick for Liverpool and aimed it towards Van Dijk, who produced a header. But unfortunately, his effort didn't have any real power and was straight at the keeper. And then Colomwani has another great chance. As Spence leaps in the air and nods the ball down towards the French striker. He's a couple yards away from goal, hits it towards the target, but hits it straight at the keeper. If I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be fuming because, quite frankly, that was an easy chance and he should have buried it. But one of the big talking points of the game occurred when Virgil van Dijk was fouled by Xavi Simons. For me, looking at it during the time and on replay afterwards as well, it was a dirty tackle. No real effort to try and get the ball. He was reckless. He was late, and of course, when you tackle from behind and use your studs on someone's calf, you're always going to be in a position of possibly getting sent off. And after a VAR review, that's exactly what happened. And for me, it was the right decision. I'm sure you guys may remember a couple of years ago, Curtis Jones was sent off ironically against Tottenham for something very similar. So I guess karma is a thing in that regards. Now, I thought this was the moment that my client, Flowing Verse, as some of the the viewers in the live chat referred to, as he was through on goal and he produced a side-footed effort, but Vicario was quick to react and produced a save to parry the ball away from goal. Then there was a moment where Kolomwani once again nudges Konate as the ball bounced over both of the players. Kolomwani is chasing for the ball. He's through on goal, but Allison was quick to get off his line and make the vital clearance. And Allison was on top of his game today. And just before the first half closed, Horo smashed in a low cross towards Spence, towards that near post, but unfortunately he misses it. And look, Spurs, despite being down to 10 men, were creating chances. It wasn't like they were getting blown out of the waters. They were really trying to make something happen. And during the halftime break, I said during my watch along that Liverpool need to change the tactics. They need to go a bit more direct, play with two strikers because we had a player in Isak on the bench, and I feel like he would come on and change the game. Maybe Slot was watching the live stream. One of his colleagues was as part of the coaching staff. I'm not too sure, but that's exactly what happened in the second half. Slot makes the change, and for me, definitely a welcome one as Isak comes on to replace Conor Bradley. Excuse me, and he has an instant impact with the opening goal. Now, that's the type of goal I want my team scoring week in, week out. Great one-two play. Starting with Isak, who lays it off to Ekitike. Ekitike then threads it a fantastic ball. Two verts, you know, in between the striker and the defender, splits them open. Verts holds on to the ball patiently, lays it off to Isak, who makes the run on that left-hand side, and he produces a fantastic left-footed shot into the back of the net. But unfortunately, at a cost as he has picked up an injury. Now, initially it seemed like it could be a knee injury, but we've heard after the game that it's a lower leg injury and it's not as bad as it was first feared. But he will undergo some scans this week. So fingers crossed that it's nothing serious and that he's back in action in no time because he's definitely needed in the squad. Spurs try to respond through Colomwani again. This time his shot gets deflected onto the crossbar. So slightly squeaky bum time for Allison there, but nothing came out of it. Then Liverpool make it 2-0. And it was our substitute who came off the bench to replace Isak. And that was Jeremy Frimpong, who produces a left-footed cross inside the box. The ball hangs in the air, and Ekitike climbs over Romero, as you can see in the picture, and hits a looping header, posting in to make it 2-0. Now, Spurs bring on Richarlison, and I will say for the record, don't normally have feelings towards certain players in terms of hatred, but I can categorically say I hate this player with a passion. If I was to bump him into real life, I would have no issue telling him that to his face. That's how I feel about this guy. And he was an absolute nuisance to Liverpool in this game. He got the consolation goal through an error of mistakes. Van Dijk, for me, should have made that clearance. Nate seemed very slow to respond with the block. So a lot was going on inside the box that could have avoided that finish from happening. And after that goal, I got worked up because Richarlison ends up trying to choke Ekitike, who was on the floor, as he was trying to get the ball and he slipped, and nothing came of it. VAR reviewed it and didn't see nothing wrong with that, and that's what really frustrated me. No reaction from the players. I think he tried to screw up with Sabozlai, but didn't really nothing really happened from that moment. I just feel like the players should represent their fellow colleagues in a better light. If someone's trying to choke out one of my players, I'm stepping to that guy right away. But that didn't occur, unfortunately. But then, worse than that, literally moments later, Richarlison was through on goal. Mistake by Curtis Jones, who gives the ball away. But thankfully, Konate was reacted, in the right way, makes the crucial block, and the shot ends up going wide. And then back to Richarlison. He could have easily been sent off for that Ekatike moment there where he tried to choke him out. But then he elbows Ping Pong in the mouth and nothing happened. Absolutely ridiculous that he got away with that. And the referee just waved play on like nothing happened. And then when Ping Pong showed him what happened, he looked at him like it was nothing. So something wrong with that referee. But hey, back to the game. Speaking of Richardson's teammate, Romero gets a second yellow card for lashing out on Konate tries to kick him when they were both on the ground. Um, and for me, the right decision. I don't know what he was complaining about. He was arguing with the referee and all sorts. Clear as day that was a foul, whilst Richarlison was getting away with murder. But the pressure was on Liverpool. 2-1 up. Didn't really pose a threat to Tottenham, in my opinion. And Tottenham almost got the equaliser before producing a low cross inside the danger zone, but thankfully it was blocked by Allison on the goal line. But look, overall, I'm pleased that we got the 3 points. That's 3 wins in a row for Liverpool in the Premier League, and we've now moved up to fifth in the table. But I have to be honest with you guys, that was not a great performance from the Reds. This is the second time in recent weeks that we've been 2-0 up and have folded as a team. Of course, the only difference between today and the match against Leeds United, we ended up with the victory today. But Tottenham were down to 10 men for large parts of the game. And of course, they had 9 men later on, but we failed to dominate. Yes, we got the decisive goals in the early parts of the second half, but in the last 20 minutes or so, we barely attacked their goal. Zero shots towards goal, so forget the target altogether. That's disappointing. And it wasn't like we were controlling the game with great ball possession or anything like that. We were quite lackluster on and off the ball. Then the inclusion of Richarlison got me worked up, as you can imagine. Um, and he scored the consolation goal. But look, he almost choked out Ekitike like they're in a UFC cage match or something. And for me, I was disappointed that none of the players, probably basketballs, that he went up to him but didn't really say much. But no one else reacted. You can't let someone treat your teammate like that. So I was, a bit annoyed to see that no one did anything, and VAR reviewed it, and they did nothing as well in regards to giving them a yellow card or whatnot. They seemed to think that was acceptable to choke someone out on the floor. So don't know what sports they're watching, but they're clearly in the wrong sport. Then moments later, Frimpong is elbowed in the mouth by Richarlison, and as you can see, is bleeding quite heavily. The ref ignores it like nothing happened, and then after that, Richarlison fouls Kanate as well. Not a single punishment. In the end, he gets a yellow card for maybe swearing at the referee. I don't know what he said to him. He should have got sent off and should have been the third red card in the game. So for me, I'm very disappointed in terms of how my team challenged this particular individual. And something that I've probably voiced before, but I'll say a bit more directly today. We're too nice as a team. I need someone in the team to play dirty at times, to be a bit more streetwise on the pitch. A cheeky elbow in the middle, during set pieces. Something like that. We don't see that from our players. We've got our captain Van Dijk being peacemaker for the opponents. Who called the police? Sit down and let the opposition be reckless and get booked by the referee. That's not his responsibility to bring peace on the pitch. We're too pelly at times, with our opponents, and I don't like that. I need this team to be a bit more aggressive at all times. We're so soft as a team. We can be vulnerable as a team as well. And that's why I can't connect with this team right now. I don't like the identity of this team. And I do think it's a reflection of the coach. And that's why I've been saying for a few weeks now, I don't think he's the one to take us forward. Quite frankly, I don't enjoy watching my team nowadays. But as you all know, this is a results business. And Liverpool, on paper, are making slow progress and grinding out the results. But I strongly believe that performances need to be improved if we are to challenge for major honours this season. So that's my take on the game. Let me go through the comments and uh, we can do the player ratings very shortly as well. Um, Bo says, well, where do we go? Where do we begin, Ozzy? Yes, it's a win, but it was such a S performance again. Makes me sick that Slot is going to be our coach for the next 5 to 10 years. I bloody hope not. I don't think he will be. So let's not think too too hastily in terms of the long term. He's not going to survive for that long, personally. Um, Bo's second comment says we got outplayed and outfought by 10 and 9 men. Absolutely crazy. And he said, big up Ozzy, big up yourself, Bo. Um, and the treatment of Chiesa once again. We'll speak about that very, very shortly. Arne, big up Arne. He says, been told Isak has not done his ACL. Have heard that as well. I've heard it's an ankle injury to some extent, like a lower leg injury. That's what they referred it to. But hopefully that's not too much of an issue, and it's not a long-term setback either. So let's see what happens. Ozzie says Spurs tears. Ahmed says rather LAS, which is lateral ankle sprain. So if it's just a sprain, he should be back in a week. So that's not something that should be too severe. Others asked for sources. Ahmed says my friend's mate who works at the AXA. And I was just laughing. I think James Pearce also confirmed it on Twitter. I saw something on Twitter that said that it's a lower leg injury. That's what they referred it to. So I just hope and pray it's not on the long term. But having said that, they still need to do scans. From the eyes, they can probably think that it's not too bad, but they have to do the X-rays and all that sort of stuff. And let's see where they are. Vert's seen as cramp, not hamstring injury. I didn't think it was a hamstring injury. I thought it was cramp as well, just because there was a couple of moments where he could have been through and go, but you can just tell he just couldn't run, and then yeah, it felt like it appeared to be cramped to me as well. So I didn't think that was it. Bowles recharges the prick. I couldn't agree more, my friend. I couldn't agree more. Well, that's it. So was I picked up a yellow due to it and will be suspended next game? Yes, unfortunately, he's suspended for the next fixture. Paul could have equalized. Yeah, he could have. Bo says, do you feel the same when we score or concede nowadays, Ozzy? I think when we were 2 up today, I just had that hint that we're gonna do what we did against Leeds. Not in terms of completely fold, but it's like we lack experience as a team. Like we don't know how to manage a lead. And that's quite worrying, being a dominant team or quite frankly, Premier League champions right now. So yeah, it's quite frustrating. Um, that's why I'm not enjoying watching these games because we're not playing our normal brand of football and we're just scraping through the results right now, which is not what I want for a team like Liverpool. But as I mentioned, it's a result of business, so we'll have to accept it to that nature. All that says never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. That's true. Ball says, remember that Spurs are actually shit as well as even with 11 men. Yeah, we still didn't do anything to be fair. Um, we all know Gakpo will start against Wolves. Sports was he? I don't know if he's fit for that game. He's been ruled out for about 3 weeks, so I don't think it's for. I don't think it would be next week. Maybe the following week after that, he may be available. But um, if that's the case, yeah, we'll have to switch the formation around again. But we'll also depend on other players in the squad. So we'll see what happens. Isabat says his comments to say hello to Yusuf. Hello, Yusuf. Big up yourself for your comment. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's move on and do the player ratings. Um, let me bring the graphic up for you guys. So here we go. So hopefully you guys let me bring up this graphic and then you guys can see. Also just got a comment here from Bo that says started making us play anti-football. I agree. I don't think he's making us play. I think that's just his blueprint, and it doesn't match well in terms of how we play as a team. So no, not too happy about that. To be honest with you guys, and then Ozan says 100. Issa says, do you think chance of winning Premier League or any silverware? No, I know some fans are saying maybe the Champions League, but I don't think we have the consistency to win that type of competition. Of course, it depends on your draw as well in terms of who you face in the next round. Uh, but no, I don't think for some reason I don't think we're going to take the FA Cup seriously, and our focus is going to be solely on finishing in the top four because that is the bare minimum for this club from a footballing standpoint, but also from a business point of view. It would be a disaster if we don't qualify for the Champions League next season. So I think that would be the focus. But I would love for us to go on a run in the Champions League. And if we get the right sort of luck in terms of the draws, who knows? Maybe we can go far. But in terms of the league, I'm not quite ready to say we're back in for a charge or anything like that. I think there's a lot of work for us to do in order to climb up the table, but actually challenge the current leaders, which is of course Arsenal right now. So let's build a team together. So of course the first player is Allison. Now Allison, uh, I thought he had a good game. To be fair, um, had to make quite a few saves towards the latter stages of the game. Nothing that was going to affect the scoreline as such, or should I say, none of the chances were clear cut chances to that nature. But he was still called upon. He had to make quite a few blocks. So for me, it's one of those things where he had to be on top form. There was quite a few times where he made some clearances, and even from when we had crosses coming in, he was really um, sort of aware in terms of when to punch the ball and when to release the ball as well. So um, I thought he helped us towards the end. To be fair, and I thought he was very dominant overall. So for me, um, Normally, when I give a score rating for Alisson, it's always a 7, like a solid 7 if he's, kept everything clean. But I do feel like he was called into action a bit more this one, so I might notch it up to 7.5. I think a 7.5 is the right score there for Alisson. Um, Now, in terms of the right back, which was Conor Bradley, I wasn't very impressed with his performance to say. I thought he looked a bit out of sorts, uh, not in tune with the game, and it's not like he was injured. He was pretty much inactive due to a suspension, so I wasn't overly pleased with his performance. I thought it was quite average, to be fair, and the substitution was the right thing to do, in my opinion. So I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. Konate, another inconsistent performance for me today. Um, I feel like there were times where he kept it clean, he kept it simple, but then there was also times where Colomwani got the best of him, whether it's from nudging um, Kanate in certain moments or getting past him. Colomwani was more clinical up top. It could have been a completely different outcome altogether. So I don't think it was his best game by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to give him as a 6 out of 10. Just going to go through some of the ratings here. Uh, Arden's gone for a 7 for Allison, and Bo has said, "Why does not get so lucky every time? Penalty versus Inter was a never a pen. Yeah, it wasn't, to be fair. Brian missed 10 big chances. Spurs get 2 red cards, so tired. Yeah, but that's not his luck. That's the team's luck as well. So I wouldn't put that down to Arne not getting luck. It's just that the results end up being lucky for him because of the way the team's set up. And sometimes you go try and get your own luck somehow. And fortunately for us, we have been. Um, and look, if that's how it goes, long may it continue. But I do feel like we need to improve our performances. We've got Arsenal coming up in about a couple of weeks' time, or maybe in 3 weeks. So we have to really be on top of our game to face them. If we get a point or even the win, then it changes the outcome or changes the outlook of the season, in my opinion. So got huge fixtures coming up in the next few weeks. Bradley gets a free from Ozan and a free for Ubu as well. Sounds like I'm being too generous with my ratings, but yeah, big up yourself for your comments there. Now on to Van Dijk. Not the best of performances from him. The second goal, I feel like, oh sorry, the consolation goal that Tottenham scored, that could have been cleared away, in my opinion. Um, he had a shot on his own in the first half that I feel like maybe he could have scored. So it wasn't a dominant performance from our captain. So for Van Dijk, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. Now, in terms of Kirkes, I thought Kirkes was decent, to be fair. I don't think he was heavily involved in our sort of build-up play, but I thought he had a solid sort of game. Um, Made some very important blocks as well. So for me, I'm going to give Kirkes a 6 out of 10. Now, in terms of actually, do you know what? He was better than Konate. Give him 7. Give him 7 out of 10. Oh, funny enough, Ozan agrees with me. So he's getting a 4 for Van Dijk and he's getting a 7 for Kirk. I thought Kirkes was good. Kirkes made a lot of blocks. He didn't really help out from an attacking point of view, but I think he was quite solid um, overall. So I'll push it to 7. I don't think he was worse than any of the players alongside him. I think he was probably the better defender today. So I gave him a 7 out of 10. Now, in terms of Gravenberg, I thought Gravenberg was okay. He wasn't heavily involved today. Um, Definitely didn't stand out. He made some good moments here and there, but nothing that kind of caught my imagination. I feel like Curtis Jones was more involved in the game, heavy in terms of possession, retained the ball really well, but also the person that would, produce forward passes for me. So for Gravenberch, I'll give him I'll give him a 5 out of 10. Now, Curtis Jones, I was very impressed with his performance today. I know he made a couple errors towards the latter stage of the game, but in general play, I thought he was very, very solid. I felt like he was progressive with his passing, and I feel like there were times where he linked up the ball very well. So for me, I'm going to give Curtis a 7 out of 10. Now, McAllister, oh, I gotta take a sip of water for this one. He was awful. Quite frankly, I wasn't pleased with his performance at all today. And I scratched my head to ask, why does he start every game under Arne Slot? Why does Arne Slot favor this person? Is it based on reputation? I don't know. But what I will say is he, for me, hasn't warranted a start in this team, especially in the role that he's playing where, frankly, he's been given a free role, playing as a roaming number 10. There were times where he was playing alongside Isak when he came on, or even Ekatike. So for me, that's not acceptable. When you're playing in that role, I need you to be influential. I need to provide service for the other attacker or at least have some shots on goal. He did neither of that. And on top of that, he was getting pushed around quite a bit, wasn't physical in his battles. I thought he was quite lackluster and was a reflection of our overall performance, to be fair. So, with that said, I'm going to give McAllister a 4 out of 10. I think he was our worst player on the pitch, to be fair. Um, Next is Sobozlai. Sobozlai, solid performance as always. Unfortunately, had to be made into a makeshift right back at halftime, but nonetheless did well. A couple of tricky moments on the left hand side, but I feel like he dealt with that very well. So for me, um, apologies, he gets a 7 out of 10. And on the left, we had who do we have? We had Verts. How can I forget my client? How dare I forget my client? I thought Verts had a decent game, to be fair. Um, Not as heavily influential as he has been the last few weeks, I would say. But very positive on the ball. Just the way he dribbles with it and tries to create openings for the attackers. But I thought he had a decent performance, but I don't think he was. I don't think it was great, to be fair. Um, so for me, actually, no, tell a lie. He provided the assist, didn't he? I have to boost his rating a little bit. So um, I'll give Florian Wirtz an 8 out of 10. I think he did really well today. But I feel like he could have done more. Could be more impactful, in my opinion. And Ekitike, I was very impressed with his play. In terms of being the lone striker, then having a strike partner in Isak, providing the ball to Wirtz, that is the pass that created that chance for us, in my opinion. And reverted back to playing, as a lone striker again. So despite so many changes and chopping and changing of our tactics and systems, I thought he did really well. And the finish, it might come across as an easy finish because he was quite close to the goal, but the cross wasn't, delivered with real pace. It was a looping ball in the air, and he had to climb over Romero and nod it down, and guide it to the goal. Couldn't generate the power, but did enough in terms of providing the right accuracy for it to hit the post and then So for me, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. I think he again has shown why he should be the main starter in our attack. That's 3 goals in 2 games, so he's definitely in great form for me. So XTK deserves a 9 out of 10, and with that rating, it goes without saying that he's also my man of the match. So drop a comment, let me know, guys, who you think is your man of the match for this fixture. Just going to go through some of the comments here before we discuss the substitutes. Uh, Ozan's gone for 6 for Gravenberch, 8 for Curtis, 5 for McAllister, 7 for Szoboszlai, Florian Wirtz, 9.84, 0.84 because it's Aussie's client. Wow, you thought you did a 9. Okay. Maybe I was a bit modest with my ratings there, but yeah, I thought 8 was the right score. But okay, I'm not gonna argue with that. It's my client, isn't he? So won't argue that at all. And Ozan says 7 for Isak. So I'll do the substitutes very shortly as well. Bo says, who can we play versus Wolves? Sobo, Isak, Bradley, maybe Verts all out. So I don't think Verts is out. I think that was a cramp issue. So it was just him, being tired at the end. So I think Verts will be available. Bradley, I'm not too sure. I think he should be available. It might just be a slight knock, and they took him off for precaution basis. So he could be available. Isak, we don't know. They'll have a couple of scans and we'll find out in due course. And suppose that he's suspended, so he's not available for that fixture. Um, Habbo says, Ozzy, please talk about the awful treatment of Rio. I'm not surprised. So it's not groundbreaking news for me. I personally don't think he should even be there. He should be either playing week in, week out for the under 23s, or he should be given a loan to a championship side where he can actually play regular football. This coach clearly doesn't rate him very highly, or he doesn't believe that he's ready to play in this game. Look, if he doesn't favor Chiesa ahead of Rio's got no chance of being in the mix, in my opinion. So it's mismanagement from our coach. And this is one of the reasons why I don't believe this coach is the right fit for Liverpool Football Club, because he's not managing players in a great way, in my opinion. When we had Jurgen Klopp, our squad players felt part of the team. They never felt they were left out in the cold. Our slot seems to be a cold customer to me, where if you're not part of the team, he doesn't have that kind of connection with you, and only calls upon you when you're needed. And that's not really the right way to manage footballers in the modern game, in my opinion. You have to make sure there's a togetherness in the squad, and I don't see that, as part of his demeanor. I don't think we have that kind of spirit within the camp. Of course, I'm not there, so I don't know. But that's the kind of reflection I get based on the plays, in matches, and you'll see the training footage here and there. Of course, they're always in good spirits, but I think that's just down to their personalities rather than the coach embedding that culture within the team. So for me, it's not fair on the kid because he's training with the first team, which is good for him. I would definitely agree with that. But I'd rather it be where he's playing for the under 23s and then he comes and trains here and there for the first team. If he's not regarded as a viable option, he shouldn't be there. That's how I'm looking at it. Sounds a bit harsh, but I feel like for his own good, he needs to be playing week in, week out. Um, but Slot sees it where he feels like maybe he's going to learn more being around the first team, but then you have to give him some game time as well. Whether it's brief cameos here and there, you know, it is what it is. But also, if I have to defend Slot a little bit, in recent games we've not done really well where we can put too many attackers in. Like I was screaming out for Chiesa today, and Chiesa was brought on literally on the 88th minute. So Slot doesn't really go and bring on attackers unless we need a goal. Hey, that is the coach there, isn't it? A 10 for Hugo, according to Ozan. Ozan saying Hugo is currently my favorite player on the squad. Ozzy, yeah, I do like the way he's playing right now, and yeah, he's a joy to watch. He's probably one of the more positives that I can actually look to and say, he's done really well. Alongside our sister Bosley, those two have been fantastic for Liverpool this season. Man's football IQ just silly, yeah, he's got a great football IQ, and I feel like I don't feel like this is it. This is just a start. I feel like with more experience as a player, but more of a better understanding with his squad members as well. He will improve as time goes on. Ball says Slot doesn't rate any of his bench players, though, Ozzy. Yeah, I don't know what it is with Slot, to be honest with you, because whenever we hear what he used to do in Holland, people will tell you that he likes to manage a small squad, but squad doesn't just mean 11 players. You've got to have a strong and heavy bench that you can rely upon as well. And I don't know, I just don't like the way he manages the team. I just don't like the way he treats players. Um, I feel like his substitutions can be called into questions that time as well. Um, I don't know. He's just not the coach that I feel like can take us forward. But we'll have to wait and see. Paul says Klopp could make a team full of fans from the stands to win the Champions League. Slot have used all this money and don't know anything at all. I wouldn't go that far. There's a lot of us fans that can't play football at all. I can play football. I'm not saying I'm one of them. I can play football, but it's been a long time since I play week in, week out. So yeah, I don't think I think you'll get the energy and the passion from the fans, but from a technical standpoint, no. We're not winning the Champions League with a group of random fans from the stands. Also, did you see the rumors that two may be best youth academy players in Farkas and Ibe? I've heard about Ibe, to be fair. Won't sign new deals. Oh, God. Because Slot's the manager. I don't know. That's a bit of a concern. Abe is very highly regarded at the club, so that would be a shame if he doesn't sign a new contract. Well, if it's down to the coach, I don't know if there is a connection there, but who knows at this stage, to be fair. I don't think Slot has social skills. Uh, Possibly, or maybe he hasn't got the grasp of the coach at the club, which it does happen to a lot of coaches because some coaches are just driven by coaching, literally, and they don't really take the time to understand or research about the club. So then you don't have that identity or you don't have that connection with the fans. So for a club like Liverpool, that's very important. It's not just a thing you have to just do for the sake of it. You have to be all in if you want to just be a successful Liverpool coach. But the only time will tell. But also they don't see a pathway to the first team. Maybe because of how Rio's been treated. I wouldn't read into that too much. I don't think that is the case. I think there is always a pathway for the youngsters to come through. Maybe under this coach, it doesn't seem as clear cut. Um, but who knows? I don't expect this manager to be here for the long term, if I'm being honest with you. Now let's do the ratings for the substitutes. So yeah, a bit of a crazy one. We had two subs came on and they both got substituted. So uh, first it was Ekitike for sorry, Ekitike, not Ekitike. Isak for Bradley. And then actually let me just do the rating one by one because unfortunately he was late to substitute. So of course he wasn't playing right back. Let me put them back in their correct positions. Um I think he was playing more alongside him, wasn't he? So I feel like Ekitike was more on the right hand side, so we'll just leave him at that. Um Isak came on and had a great impression on the game. He only played for about 10 or so minutes. And what gave me a sort of a good insight into of what we can expect to see in the future was the goal, where you don't have to be doing a lot of 1-2s, but if you're closer to your strike partner, then you can create an opening. So in this moment, Isak and Ekitike were very close to each other. Isak laid it off. Ekitike hit it across the pitch to Verts. Verts then cut inside and waited for Isak to make that overlapping run. Found him and then he scored the goal. So that's what I want from my strike force to work as a collective. And that was a good sign today. And the finish was a great finish. Fortunately, he picked up an injury at the end, but hopefully it's nothing too serious. So for me, he gets a 7 out of 10. And then we have Frimpong that replaced Isak. There you go, Jeremy Frimpong. And you swap him with Ekitike. So Frimpong, another player that had an instant impact, to be fair. Played as an out-and-out right winger, which I'm not surprised because that was one of our discussions as fans that when Salah goes to AFCON, who can come in and play that role? And I think most of us would say, Frimpong would be a viable option there. And he was really good. Of course, there was a couple of times where he kind of overplayed it a little bit, but I think that's more of him being a bit rusty. He hasn't played first team football in over 6 or so weeks, so still getting accustomed to playing competitive football again. But he was sharp, provided the assist for Ekitike, so had an instant impact. Unfortunately, got an elbow to the mouth, and he was hot in terms of like he was peed off about that because the ref didn't back him. Nothing happened to Richarlison, and quite frankly, I could relate to him because I would be peed off in that moment as well. So Slot decided to remove him from the pitch because he pretty much lost his temper, I guess. But for his rating, I also give him a 7 out of 10. Now, in terms of the other substitutes, because he became a bit hot-headed, uh, Chiesa came on and replaced the Dutchman. So, like for like substitution, this was around the 88th minute. Um, and look, quite frankly, Chiesa, I'll be honest with you guys. If it was my son, I'd tell him to leave in January because he's getting hugely disrespected by Arne Slot. There was moments in the game I was screaming for Chiesa to come on, and I still don't believe how McAllister lost it all that time because Chiesa could have come on, play that number 10 role, or play alongside Ekitike when Isak got injured, for example. So there were numerous occasions where Chiesa could have been included into the lineup, but Slot decided to use different options and throw him on the 80th minute. We end up having an extra 10 minutes of stoppage time. Um, but no, he's getting mistreated. It's blatantly obvious. Like if you can't see it, I don't really know what to say. But he's clearly getting treated like he's not the quality of player that he is, and therefore I think he needs to leave. Um, and I'm sure he probably doesn't want to because he loves the club and the fans adore him. We have a great connection with the player. But if he doesn't have a connection with the coach, unfortunately, it hampers his career as well because we've got a World Cup coming up, as you all know, and he's a player that is very much respected in his home country, and they want him to be part of that team. So if they want him part of that team, he needs to be playing football, and that's something Gattuso has said over the last few weeks. And that's why there was a lot of questions about Chiesa during the press conference when we were playing Inter Milan. So I think it would be best for Chiesa to leave. I don't want to see that happen because I really rate him as a player, and whenever he comes on, especially this season, he's definitely had a great impact on the team. But quite frankly, he's getting mugged off. And with the possible rumor of Semenyo joining the club, maybe he's the player that part ways in order to accommodate his space in the team. Even though I don't think we have a fully loaded sort of attacking lineup. For me, he comes in and replaces Diaz, if I'm being honest with you. So, but it is in terms of this performance, um, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. He barely touched the ball. To be honest with you. So 5 out of 10 for him. Robertson replacing Ekitike. Yeah, pretty much the same thing, isn't it? He barely touched the ball as well. So I'm just going to give the player a 5 out of 10 just to be respectable. And Trey Neone replacing Verts. And yeah, he barely touched the ball as well. So he gets a 5 out of 10 as well. So that is my rating for today. So drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. Before we close the show, I'm just going to read some of the comments. Bo says, "You're not getting your head turned Ozzy onslaught, hopefully." No, I feel like I made that very clear. I'm not happy with this manager. So no, not for me at all. I don't like his demeanor as a coach. I don't like the way he's treated players, and I don't like the tactics. So for me, there's a lot of crosses in the checklist. So yeah, for me, not the one for Liverpool Football Club. Um, Other saying slot rating. Okay, slots rating. I'll give him. This is not personal, so this is the rate based on the result today. I'll give him an 8 on the basis that I was pleased that he made a substitution of Isak right to at halftime because he can be a little bit cautious about making those type of substitutions. So that's a positive. Frimpong was a good substitution at the time because we needed pace and width on that side of the pitch. Not now the negatives for me, not sure how McAllister survived because he was by far the worst player and should have been substituted a long time ago. And Kane was brought on for 10 minutes where he should have been brought on a lot earlier. And as a voice before, he's clearly been mistreated by the coach. So for me, an 8 out of 10 for the coach. Um, Chiesa should find a new agent, Ozzy. Yeah, if he wants my services, I'll be happy to represent him. So yeah, why not? Bo says, why are the fans uh always singing about Slot? As soon as we get one goal, does my head in? He needs to understand this is serious. He both thinks that this has been more than good enough. Well, if that's what he thinks, then that's not acceptable for me. Also saying 8 with a question mark based on the result, but I don't think we played very well. To be fair. I think the result will break the headlines, but if you go based on how we performed as a team, tactically, I don't expect something different from Slot. This is Slot. This is stop ball for me. So you know, when you're playing against a 10-man team, you have to dominate. You have to play with more energy. Which sounds silly because you're not the one that is handicapped in that situation, but you have to go with the advantage or the upper hand, and you have to really, hit them where it hurts. And that's you going on attack as soon as they are down to 10 men. We didn't do that. We didn't dominate. We didn't hold possession of the ball very well, in my opinion. There's a lot of issues there, but in terms of the scoreline, we got the win. I think that was the most important thing. And we moved up to 5th place. But in terms of performance, yeah, 8 might sound like high, I'm not gonna lie, but what I liked was the fact that he did change tactics, he did change the system. He brought Isak at our half time, which he normally wouldn't. He probably wait until the 60th minute, and that would have been, could have been a disaster if I'm being honest with you. Brought Frimpong when maybe most coaches would have brought Frimpong, but I feel like that move ended up helping. So those two inclusions were a success. And with the result as well, you have to give him a bit of a high rate. So I'll give him an 8 out of 10. Um, so probably almost drew to a 9 men Paul Spurs team are 12. Oh, you mean 13th. But 9 men wasn't for large parts. It was 10 men last down to large parts, and it was like I don't know about 10 or so minutes in terms of the 9 men. I get it, but look, a win is a win. Doesn't matter really how you get them. I just said we just need points on the tally. So that's how it goes, I guess. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Bowl and Ozan. I think there was a couple other guys as well. To Isa as well, appreciate your comments and Armin. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, we'll be back for Monday. May do a transfer show and then see what sort of breaking news we get in regards to transfers and We'll be back next Thursday with the match review. But in between then, I'm sure we'll do a few shows during the 3 days, I guess. We're not used to playing once a week, are we? So we have to get used to that now. But yes, we'll be back very soon. So hopefully we'll get some good news in regards to certain players, and we'll have close enough a fully fit squad for next week against Wolves. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.